Hi everyone, Emily Morgan here with Delegate Solutions. Today we're going to be talking about how to use delegation to find more freedom. So these are what we have worked on as the top delegation strategies for entrepreneurs. So why is delegation so hard for entrepreneurs? I mean, the truth is we all start out with the best intentions with delegation, like we conceptually understand it, we bring energy to it, and then something breaks down and it breaks our trust and frustrates us. And then we throw up our hands and we say, we're not good delegators, and we stop. So every day at Delegate, we help people make the most of their day through delegation. So I promise you it's possible to master this just as you would develop a muscle at the gym. But over the 15 years that I've been running my company, we've worked with hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs at every growth stage and the struggles that they face of letting go. We call this behavior hardwired rugged individualism, and the themes are always the same. It's easier for me to do it myself than to explain it. I can do it better. My work's too complicated to hand off, or I've tried handing this off before and it got screwed up and it just cost me more time. And my favorite, which is I know I need help, but I don't even think I'm in a place where I can pull somebody in yet. And these probably all sound familiar to you. We've all said them, used them at various points on our journey. But there's a lot of reasons that entrepreneurs in general push back on delegation. But the good thing is that it's behavior and it's fixable. So as leaders, I believe that the number one thing that we have to protect is our energy. Energy is where we direct our time and attention, and our time is finite. So how do we protect our energy from all the things that drain us and direct us to things that really excite us? Delegation. Knowledge and awareness around this allows us and empowers us to manage our time and energy in new ways. And just like we build a muscle at the gym, we can build up a team and a culture of people who are delegating by working at it every single day. So much of delegation has to do with our mindset and limiting beliefs and thoughts that may have come up for us over the years that we've been building businesses. Some of it is generational, but at the end of the day, the number one thing we need to protect is our energy, because that's what's going to help us move forward our vision. So we've established that there's three parts to delegating well. And for a visionary leader to successfully move towards freedom, there's three skills that we need to work on. First is the discipline, and this is your focus and commitment to actually seeing the delegation process through. Sometimes this can be the most difficult part because it requires restraint and control over ourselves, but it's also the mark of a game-changing entrepreneur. If you look at all of the recent great entrepreneurs, they attribute discipline and their ability to be a disciplined leader to the success of their business. The second part of delegating well is the art, and that's typically the fun part. It's the way that we design and approach what we're going to delegate. And then the last part is the science, which is also referred to as the handoff. So this is how you get it from your plate to someone else's. This is built as a circle on purpose because it repeats, and all three parts must be present for delegation to work really well. So let's start with discipline. And I get it, the word naturally might bring about some negative emotions, but this is how we create lasting progress. And discipline is all about our own commitment and focus to seeing delegation through. So understanding that progress is more important than perfection, and continuing to see our commitments through even when we might get bored or frustrated, it's how we have true progress. So we found that there's three behaviors of disciplined leaders. The first is that they respect systems. So in a growing company, confusion equals chaos. And a commitment to systems and process actually allows leaders to increase our leverage and our impact, especially during times of rapid growth. The second is that we are willing to be held accountable. And we know that accountability starts at the top, and our commitment to leading by example is evident in our own discipline to stay in our lanes and respect established priorities. Number three, we temper ourselves for the greater good of our vision. So we know that growth can be exciting and validating, but it also can disrupt our focus on our most important contribution, which is our vision. So by adopting these three behaviors, even when we're frustrated and stuck, this is where you're going to really see some transformation with delegation. So with the ideal behaviors in mind, let's explore some of the behaviors that hinder our success in this area. And I find it's helpful to name them and spot these. It helps us, if we know what we are calling these behaviors, we can spot them more easily as they are occurring. So we've put together what we've seen as the 5 bottleneck behaviors of entrepreneurs. And they are the hero, the interventionist, the isolationist, the time optimist, and the dreamer. So we are going to talk about each type one at a time. So let's start with the hero. The hero always wants to save the day. And our team has been conditioned to run things through us, and they require so much permission just to get things done. Entrepreneurs are notorious for this behavior. We have great pride sometimes and can attribute our own self-worth to how much we are contributing. But honestly, it's not sustainable for growth if you want a company that can run without you. So over time, how this happens is that processes for removing the CEO out of the equation haven't been established. And we have not given our teams enough autonomy and permission. We may have more wrong people in wrong seats. And it creates a constant state of confusion and lack of autonomy that can lead to a behavior that we call delegation blocking over time. The second type is the interventionist. So the interventionist, it's your classic micromanager, but they love to be in the loop. And they feel like there's no trust that anyone can do it as well as I can. You're continually involved in the 80% of things getting done rather than focusing on your 20% most important work. And you're not really committed to the delegation being successful because you don't trust the process. And this sort of need to stay in the loop at all times has become a bad habit. So how it happens is that everything stems from you. So what you have built is largely dependent on your own participation. And, you know, it makes me think about the song, we built the city on you, because everything stems from you, your plans, your vision, the sale, the execution, and everything requires your participation. You might have tried to find support in the past, but despite your best efforts, the delegation failed. And this only just creates a cocooning tendency to protect yourself from delegation errors of the past. And in some cases, you haven't committed to making things successful because you haven't provided the clarity needed to execute things to your standards. So you'll see at the top where it says question 2, A or B, we actually have this as a diagnostic on the website. So you could take the test if you would like and see how you score on each type. Type 3 is the isolationist, and this is the person who says, I'll just do it myself. And the established communication schedule across your team has to be addressed because the team really isn't clear on process and they always need additional information from you, but you're never available to answer any questions. And how this happens is you have total awareness around how much help you need, but you have no time now to spend with anyone to actually hand it off. And so you're so overwhelmed that you're providing minimal details and setting unrealistic expectations and turnaround times. So the fourth type is the type that I am, which is always the time optimist. And time optimists can be really unrealistic with how much time and resources we have. And so sometimes, we have a lot of energy around our ideas, but we can lack restraint when it comes to fully executing our best ideas. And it can create a lot of confusion and lack of focus on our teams because they don't know what the priorities are. So how it happened, we're great at creating new ideas and concepts. The enthusiasm really drives our team. But if everything is viewed as urgent, nothing gets done. And this sort of culture of oversharing can become really toxic to your team because they're just confused on what the priorities are. And the last type is the dreamer. So the dreamer loves to ideate, but a lot of the times they haven't really defined what success looks like with the delegation. Excuse me, because you haven't really thought through your success criteria. And you constantly change your mind, and this becomes a recipe for disaster because everyone lacks confidence in what the goal is. And this can really drive our teams crazy because they don't have what they need from you to actually action a project or idea. And so how it happens, your favorite place to hang out is in idea creation, and no one does it better than you when it comes to dreaming things up time and time again. So the challenge is really in the handoff of the information who bring that idea to life. And what they need from you is clarity and commitment to see things through. So again, you can think through which behavior type you exhibit most frequently. Most of us vacillate through these different types across the day. But the important thing is to spot them and be able to call them out as to what they are. So the next part of delegating well is the art. And this is always the fun part because once we start to delegate, it becomes really infectious to want to hand more and more and more off because we feel so much weight off our shoulders. So the art has to do with the way you design the what and how, the what of delegation. So a few best practices when it comes to determining what to delegate. First, you always want to start with your goals. What are the things that you want to spend your time on? List them out and work backwards and ask yourself, what has to happen for me to accomplish that? What do I specifically need to do to make that happen? And whatever is not one of your goals and priorities becomes a candidate for delegation. Number two is to look for repeatables. So this is always the easiest place to start because if it repeats and you're doing it, it needs to go because someone else can simply capture that process and take it right off your plate. And then number three is to find the low-hanging fruit. So think about the things that you're doing that are just time wasters, things that bring you absolutely no joy, but they still need to get done. So for example, like calling vendors, researching gifts, booking travel arrangements. Using these low-hanging fruit can really help bolster your confidence with delegation. Number four is compartmentalize. So people get stuck here because they get overwhelmed when they try to think about handing off something that's really big and complicated. But if you have a really strong support partner who loves helping and can see details really clearly, they can help you break down a larger or complex project into a delegation. So for example, if the feeling of I'm going to delegate my scheduling feels just too overwhelming, think about maybe there's a portion of your scheduling you could delegate. Maybe it's internal meetings. Maybe you use Calendly to handle, certain calls with sales leads, things like that. So think about how to break larger, more scary things down to just chip away at delegation. And then the last thing is to use exercises. So if you feel like really stuck with what to delegate, you can run some exercises and capture how you're spending your time. There's a tool that we've created called the freedom analysis that helps you sort of uncover the four corners of where your time lives just by simply thinking through and reflecting on how the time has been spent. So the last part of delegating well is the science. And this is the process by which delegation is managed. So how you're getting it from your plate onto someone else's. And the secret sauce to delegation, the science part of it, is having a sweet process. So a few best practices of handing things off. Number one, you always want to delegate the end result. So what does success look like? These things have to be true when this project is completed. And when you can force yourself to think through that before you actually hand something off to someone else, you're much closer to getting the result that you're imagining. And then share that with your support partner and let them take it from there. And you get bonus points here if you can think about why the project is important to you, because that will make the person that is there to help you, the who, much more engaged in the end result. Number two, feedback is a must. So delegation is not a singular experience, even at the task level. So by committing to and receiving feedback, it helps you become a stronger delegator, and it helps you get more in sync with the person you're delegating to. Number 3, start small to build confidence. So focus on compartmentalizing those larger tasks and projects into smaller parts to build your own confidence with delegation. And remember, you always can look for repeatables and low-hanging fruit as a great entry point to build up your own energy and confidence around feeling comfortable with delegation. And these small wins still equate to time being saved, but it also helps build confidence. Number 4 is get comfortable with 80%. So remember, we're going for progress, not perfection. And if you ask yourself, if someone could do this 80% as well as I could, would that be good enough? So it's sometimes not always about things being done perfectly, but if they're getting done and they're done well enough to just keep the ball moving, sometimes that can be acceptable. And a couple more points on this. Sometimes for me, having someone just start something is a win, because then I just know I have to come back through and do my 20% at the end. And just remember, when you're delegating, it doesn't necessarily mean everything's fully off your plate. There's likely something that's going to need to come back to you to complete something. So make sure you save some mental energy to deal with sort of the end result of the delegation. Number 5 is commit to the boring stuff. So the boring stuff, takes up at least 50% of our business, and it's really important because it's the backbone of our companies, and it helps us deliver what we are selling in an effective, compelling, and unique way, and it's what creates scale. So ignoring it because it's not interesting to you or doesn't serve your vision is not productive for your company overall. So understanding your own ongoing commitment to delegation and that it might take many iterations of an admin process to get it fully to the point where you feel good about it, but at least you've committed to seeing that through. So those are the 3 parts to delegating well. And we also covered the bottleneck behaviors. And if you'd like to go deeper with delegation, there's a couple ways we could help you. First, we have a 6-week live e-course that we run almost monthly. And those are small cohorts of like-minded leaders. We go deeper into this content. It's a lot of sharing and peer-to-peer learning. If you prefer self-study, we also have a free e-workbook called the Elevation Freedom Guide. And all of this information is available on our website, delegatesolutions.com/TBS. Thank you so much.